All right, guys, welcome to Awesomeness Hour. Marissa, we can only see about half your face. There she is. Welcome to Awesomeness Hour with Alissa and Marissa and Jay. I was hoping that would rhyme there at the end, but it didn't. What are you gonna
We
do?
could call you Jarissa,
Can't win them
Jarissa for
all.
the
That would
point
be
of
a
this
weird
Zoom.
name, Jarissa. Speaking of that, I'll tell you guys what my name was going to be if I was a girl. Do you guys know what
Ooh.
your name would have been if you were a boy? Like, did your mom ever say if you were a boy, I would have named you blank?
Oh no.
I was gonna
Don't
be
tell us yet. Not
Jordan.
yet. Jordan.
Oh,
Okay, save. Do you know what yours was going to be, Marissa?
No, because they knew that I was going to be a girl. So they never had a plan B.
But what if, I mean, sometimes people are wrong. What if you had popped out and you'd have been like, oh shit.
Oh, I don't know. They only told me that they were in between two girl names, but never a boy.
Okay, we'll play. What's the other girl name?
Melissa.
Really?
Yeah.
That bitch. You know we don't. We don't. So inside joke. So we joke around about Melissa being a bitch because some people call Marissa Melissa all the time, and I don't correct them. Like they'll be like, "Hey, where's Melissa?" And I'll be like, "Ah." Or they'll be like, "Hey, when I was with Melissa the other day," and I'm like, "This is gold." And then I'll say, you know. So then when she does something stupid, my first question is this, who did this? Was it Marissa or was
Melissa.
it Melissa? And you'd be surprised how much Melissa gets blamed for shit. So,
At least you have a fallback.
I'll tell you mine. So if I was a girl, my name was going to be Jana Elaine Elizabeth Nixon.
Quite the name.
Yeah,
A lot of names.
You're damn right. Jana Elaine, not a fan of that one. Don't even know where that came from. Elizabeth Nixon.
Oh.
Your name would be Jean, like
Jean,
jeans.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was my mom even think? How do we get from there to where I am today? Unbelievable. Okay. Anyway, so we've got Alissa here today, guys. Alissa, tell us a little bit for those of you guys that don't know you as deeply as some of the rest of us do. How long have you been in the program? How'd you get here? What was that journey like? Was there? I mean, just let us go.
So I've been reflecting a lot on this question. It's been kind of cool to be someone that's a week into this Awesomeness Hour and really get that opportunity to think about it. So I started 4 years ago. June will be 2016. My son was 5 months old, my third son. And I walked into the studio. I'd had several friends who had success in other things. And I walked in full business attire. I think I had heels on, 5-month-old in a car seat. And you looked at me and said, "Hey, why are you here?" And I think I like looked at myself in the mirror and just started crying and said, "I don't know." And I said, "I gotta fix this. I don't know who I am, and I need to fix it." And it was, I had gotten married in 2012. 2 years before that, I had moved to Indio from Newport Beach, living with my best friends. Knew no one but my husband's family. And from 2012, 3 days after my 1-year wedding anniversary, I had my first son. 4 months later, said goodbye to him at his funeral. 15 months later, had my second son, and 18 months later, had my third son. So,
talk about jamming a whole bunch of stuff into a small can. I mean, what's going
on? So I like to be busy, clearly. Yeah. But it was one of those things where never really allowed myself to get to know my husband, to grieve my first son, I wanted kids back to back. So clearly, if you have another baby, you need to have another one right there to make sure, it all works. The plan
I'm
works.
not good at math, but I know how the process itself works.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't want to get into that. So I'm glad for that one. But from the time that I joined the program, I was 160 pounds, I think, when I started. Okay. I'd gone anywhere from 200 pounds delivering my third son. My wedding day, I was 128 pounds, but still a size 6. So clearly I wasn't healthy. My lowest weight in the program in 4 years was 123 pounds at a size 0. So clearly if I was a 0 to a 6 around the same weight, then obviously there was an issue there. And just never really learned how to eat healthy. I think like many, many people in this program, I had the mom who went from Fen to Weight Watchers to Jenny Craig. I was the only daughter, so let's live that Orange County, beautiful, thin, tan, blonde daughter lifestyle. Our life is perfect on the outside. Look at my beautiful little children. So there was a lot of exterior pressure to keep up with, and just kind of always kept that have to look good on the outside regardless of the healthy outcome. Let's just make sure that's there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What do you remember why? I mean, we know why you came into the studio, but did somebody say, hey, go here? Or was it like you just like kept hearing things, or was it, what, do you remember how that worked?
I think for me, I was so sick of looking at myself in the mirror and not being happy. And so I think the immediate was, well, let me go default. If I go get fit and healthy, quote unquote, right, if I can wear smaller jeans, if I can look good in a bathing suit, then I must be happy. And one of the biggest things from the program, and I think that I've seen throughout the program, is I committed when I did it 100%, to the point where I was almost annoying to myself, because if it wasn't Jay approved, then I wasn't going there. I was committed. I can remember I laughed at myself this morning, because I would come in every week and be like, Jay, what week is it? How many weeks have I been in the program? Like, okay, so it's 6 weeks. So I'm going to do another 6 weeks. And it wasn't until I signed up for the full year and just said, all right, picked my horse. This is working. Let's now not worry about the scale. And I made the perfect Jay approved food, or I did all those things. Let's start getting into why I'm really here. And that's when I discovered all of the different overweight mind stuff that had really been holding me back and had really been in my way. And that's the hardest part of the program. And in the 4 years, watching huge success, and then I would tell them like, oh, here's where the good stuff comes. You thought that sled was hard. Like, if you're really in it, this is where the good stuff comes. So start really listen to the calls, really put in the work, really not only fall in love with the process, but fall in love with you, because you're not the same person that came in, but you probably didn't know who that person was when you got here.
Well, sometimes they don't, you, them, they, me, we don't recognize the new person either. And that's really uncomfortable. It's because like, I don't even feel like I used to feel, but I know I'm, this is the meat suit's sort of the same, but it's like, I don't think the same and all those types of stuff. So that's one of the hardest processes. And I think that's when a lot of people start to withdraw, because they get all that feedback from people too. Like people are like, oh, you're different. You're not the same. You're crazy, or you're losing too much weight, or you're whatever it is. And then if you don't feel the comfort with your own self, it's easy to listen to that noise and say, well, you know what, they're probably right. I better go back to the way I was, because that was safe and comfortable, and I knew me and everybody else knew me. So
well, and I struggled with that a lot. I struggled that throughout the journey of this with there were 2 ways I handled it. I believed it and self-sabotaged, and then I got pissed and I threw up a wall, and I said, you know what, you're not welcome in my life anymore. So instead of working through it and being, well, maybe I can still love you through that and you can stay in my life, it was kind of a one or the other. You're either allowed to stay on this side or not. And it was a journey of finding myself and figuring out who was allowed to be part of it.
I think that's in this, this hit on something that Marissa and I were talking about earlier this week. I think if you can find a way to be unapologetically you, I mean, as long as you're not a maniac, right? As long as you're not like hurting people, or you're a bank robber, or you're like, or, whatever. I think as long as you're a good human, but then you can find a way to be like unapologetically you as long as you're not hurting anybody. I'll give you a perfect example. So I did a little like Facebook Live on Sunday, and I just titled it Super Sunday Sermon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got so mad at me for using the word sermon. And I'm like, I'm fairly smart. So I know that the definition of sermon isn't just a religious connotation, but I came home and looked it up. And I looked it up to make sure. And I'm like, sure enough, the second definition was a lecture or a speech, or something that has like, that is meant to have a powerful message. It's not, it doesn't always have to have something to do with religion. This person got so offended, like lost their minds about that. And I have to say, and it's like, Marissa told me about it because I didn't even know. And my first thought was, that's okay. Like because here's what I know. If that offends you about Jay Nixon, you better get the hell out of here. Cause that's the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, I mean, I'll say some shit. If that got you, you're going to be in trouble later on. So you should go early, right? You should find your other tribe early. But it's just like one of those things, like, but I wasn't always like that, right? Like a few years ago, I would have probably been like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't say stuff like that. Or maybe I should have been, what if I do offend somebody? All I know is like, your intentions behind everything you're doing. So I think that's probably where you've gotten to in a different place, is like, you just know who you are now. And so you don't really have to have all those walls anymore and those things. You can just be like, this is me unapologetically, and welcome to the show.
Well, and I think there was a call you did some time ago, and about being confident in what you say. And so being congruent in, I'm going to say this, but I'm going to back it up 100% with my actions. 100%. And so when I say I only eat this way, it's not like, well, I like to eat this way because I know it makes me feel better. And I think there was a lot of time where, being a recovering people pleaser, that it would be, well, I don't want to, hurt their feelings, or I want them to like me, and I want this and I want that I better not come on too strong with my opinions, because A, I don't want to deal with confrontation and deal with a debate, but B, I also don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Where once I just stood behind it, I'm like, it's kind of like having an allergy or something else. That's what I choose to eat because I like to feed my body that way, period.
Yeah. But not having to have that extra.
Yeah.
Because behind it, it's just like, this is just what it is. I mean, and so I think that's great that you've gotten to that place, but it didn't happen overnight. Right. So I think that's the message I think Alyssa's trying to convey, that I want you to hear, that Marissa's shaking her head about, is everybody is going to find themselves in that journey at some place or space. Just keep going and know that like there's a better feeling at some point where you don't have to defend yourself or define yourself or give somebody else affirmation about who they believe that you are. Like it's just, there's a whole lot of, as humans, we have this desire to like make people believe what we believe. And what you have to really understand is that if you have to convince somebody of something or try to, it's not even worth doing. You know what I mean? You don't need to convince people about what it is that you want to do with your life. If you're doing that, you're looking for validation. You know what I mean? And we can self-validate. I think that's one of the big things about that, is we can definitely do that. Well, you've had I think one of your successes, and one of the reasons you're so successful, is because you are a little bit, and I'm massively this way, you're a little bit OCD to the fact of like, you want to do things, I hate the word right, but you want to be all in on stuff. Yeah. And I think that's what allows you to be consistent and committed enough to where you get the things that you want to get out of it. Like you're not the kind of person with anything where you just kind of dip your toe a little bit. Like if you say, this is the new thing we're doing, like then you're going to be all in on that. And that's been one of the reasons that you've had a lot of success, because,
Well, and I think also in having that kind of pick your horse, if it's work, I love how you made that analogy where it's like, you were answering somebody earlier and I was just thinking to myself, just go all in and do it. Believe in every single step. There's so many people that have shown that it has worked. Yeah. I used to nitpick. It was kind of, it's taken me 4 years to get here, because Jay would do a call and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, well, let me try to do it 12 ways to next Tuesday the wrong way, then figure out, okay, that really works. Now I'm going to follow the rules and be a rule follower.
Right.
And that's how I started the program, with a lot of, like how I treated my mom like a teenager, but I'm paying for it, so I have to keep doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm cheap and I put money in, so I better keep going. But let me make sure that I should pay the next 6 rounds, or 6 weeks. I need to make sure that this worked.
Well, I know a bunch of people in kind of the business world or whatever. I know a couple of guys just off the top of my head that have multiple coaches, and they do that so they can always defer. So I could say, well, I know Alissa said this. That's going to be super hard. I was talking to Marissa the other day, or probably Melissa, and she said I could do it this way. That sounds a little easier. I know that Alyssa's way is going to be harder, but get me really what I want to do. But as long as I'm listening to my coach, Melissa, then I can do it and say, well, I follow what my coach told me to do. So a lot of the times that's why people have multiple places of influence, because they can defer. Because if you just have one coach and you're like, hey, I'm going to put all my trust in you, you give me, and listen, not everything your coach says is golden either. I mean, we're humans as well. Sometimes we say shit that just doesn't apply to your life or is not applicable. You've got to be able to sift through that. But you also have to be able to say, am I sifting because it doesn't work, or am I sifting because I don't want to do the work? Yeah. That's the big caveat, right? And so people who get information, people are doing it right now. So right now with this whole opportunity 2020 in the news, you'll take a piece of information from this newscaster. You'll take a piece of information from this Facebook post from like a Facebook doctor who's really, they work at Home Depot. You'll take another piece of information from your Aunt Sally, and then you create this story about what you have created. You know what I mean? Like, instead of just like picking a source, because I mean, if you look at sources right now, we'll use this as a great example right now, guys. If you listen to 5 different, got a whoopee, kettlebell.
Oh,
I know. Boo-hoo. Anyway, you listen to 5. I just looked, I saw it in the thing. I'm like, what the hell's in my hand?
I was wondering what it was, a ladybug?
Blood blister. If you look at 5 different sources, you might get 5 different pieces of information. Like, oh, there's this many cases here. Well, this person said there's this many cases here. And your brain goes to like, which one do I want to like validate? We do the same thing with coaches. We do the same thing with like the people in our life. Like, if I want to get an answer, I'm going to call Alissa first, and I'm going to be like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And then you don't give me what I want to hear. What am I going to do? I'm going to hang the phone up and call Melissa. Melissa doesn't give me the answer. I'm going to hang the phone up and I'm going to call Marissa. Marissa's going to be like, no, I think that sounds good, Jay. And I'm going to be like, I knew it. Yeah. Knew it was right. Right. But even though I talked to 7 people before that they thought it was the dumbest thing ever, we'll find somebody to validate our BS. Yeah. So what you've done a really good job of, like you said, you've picked a horse and you've like, listen, this is as crazy as he is. And, I don't have to agree with everything he says, but like, this is the person that I'm going to follow and like use and whatever. And I think that's been one of your most valuable, because even like you said, you did it for a little while, kind of chaotically trying to make it work your way. And then you finally it's almost easier, isn't it? When you just like, okay, whatever.
It's so much easier. And I think it's also the reason why we're here. So it's like every single one of us has shown up here because we've had it with everything else. So we're among the same people. And kind of back to what you were saying, is that was my biggest thing that I looked at, is many of my friends that I'd always surrounded myself or had good friendships with loved telling me yes, or I was the strongest, most competitive one. And I found I now have a circle that they are brilliant, strong, aggressive, competitive women in all of their bucket. They sometimes scare the crap out of me, but they push me because they're not going to let me just sit around. They're not going to let me be lax. And this goes so far beyond food, but just with how we are as moms and women and wives. And it sucks and it hurts sometimes, but it's so good. But I wouldn't allow myself those friendships before because they were hard and they might judge me. And if I'm weak, they're not going to like me. So it really got in the way of having those real solid friendships because I didn't, or I would be afraid to be vulnerable. So I wouldn't want to let them in on the yucky, dark and twisty that was going on when that's life.
Totally.
And so I just have such more real friendships. It's really a beautiful gift with purchase. It's weight loss. It's good friends. It's,
I mean, really, it all comes back to to us just being our best version of ourselves. Let's transition a bit, but like, because I've asked everybody the same question. I'm finding an extreme value for myself and for everybody else in this. Like, if you had to say like one thing you've learned about yourself just with this specific situation that we're in right now, what is that one thing been that you've kind of either uncovered or didn't even realize about yourself?
I think I've been, I'm extrovert. That's my job. That's what I do. I'm out, but I never realized how much recharge time I had. And so because of that, I didn't realize how much being overstimulated really just gets me to where I kind of just shut down, because I had so many quiet times where for me, I thought, oh, extrovert, be around people, be this, be that. Well, I'm around 3 humans, a dog and a lizard every single day. And sometimes it's everything in me not to go just lock myself in a closet, because that's why I started walking in circles in the backyard. It was kind of at first like, yeah, let's see how this goes. But it just is a moment of quiet so that I'm not ready to snap. And it's not that overwhelmed. It's overstimulation of this one talking, that one's playing a guitar, the dog's barking, the gardener. It's so much noise. Yeah. And that you can't turn any of it off.
No, I agree with that 100%. Like, just that external noise is one of my things that I need to get away from time to time as well. Like, it's very, it busies the brain for sure.
Yeah. And I noticed I distract myself with like stupid stuff instead of just sitting doing a project, because someone's going to interrupt me. So I don't want to dive into that, but then realizing that becomes kind of a pattern, and then I'll stress about not getting things done. So that's where I could see that has been in other areas previously, but I didn't notice it because, I'm busy getting the kids and this and that and the other thing. So the busy disease.
Busy being busy. That's a good awareness. What's one thing that you've taken advantage of, like an opportunity or something that you may have not either thought you had time for or didn't even know you wanted to do, that you've done during this particular time?
Mine is kind of opposite of what something I wanted to do. Okay. But I have the foundation that I started shortly after my son passed away. And it was my way of raising my first son and all of these wonderful things. And it hasn't been bringing me joy for a little while, because the purpose of why I started it, the direction needed to go somewhere else. But I felt like if I stopped the momentum of the events and the things, that it would fizzle, or I wouldn't feel those certain things. And having to cancel this year's event and not having that full focus, I've really had a chance just to let it all go, drop all of the pieces and say, which ones am I going to pick up, which are important, and slow down and get a better vision of it. So instead of actually doing something, I let something go. Yeah. And now I'm choosing how I'm going to pick it back up and make it done right, instead of, oh my gosh, I have a deadline. I said I was going to do this. I said I was going to do that, and making it one more thing that I'm stressing and overwhelmed about.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the valuable lesson there. Like, I mean, and I'm going to put words in your mouth here, because I'm painting this picture for everybody. You, us, we, a lot of times we attach ourselves and our identity to something that we've either always done or something we said, blah, blah, blah. And it may not even be what we want to do anymore. And we don't even realize that until like something like this, a golden opportunity to not be able to do the event was probably the biggest blessing ever, because it got you to step away from it and say, well, I'm still okay. Like nothing changed with me. Like, the definition of who I am didn't change, but now I get to create and rebuild or redo or not do or whatever. So sometimes you do have to delete to add. And so that's really what you've kind of like pulled out of this whole scenario, which I think is massively valuable. I mean, so see, there is opportunities in this like chaos and this oddness of sometimes, like I even said this early on, like a bunch of people are doing a bunch of things they don't even really want to be doing. And now they're going to get the opportunity to step back from those things and be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just not doing it. Right. But we get so caught up. You said, well, I'm going to do the thing, so I have to do the thing. Like I have a deadline. So we get caught up in these like deadlines that we created that nobody would even really care if we canceled or didn't do it or made an adjustment. But we create in our brain. Well, then they'll think that then they'll think I don't care. Or they'll then think that blah. Nobody cares.
Or what's wrong? Or why, I wonder what's going on with her. She met, no.
I can't. So I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you guys remember. I don't know if you guys remember this. But I was planning that Inspired event last year. Blah blah blah, and I made the decision to cancel it. And guess what? I told nobody why. Nobody still knows. Marissa has no clue. I told nobody why. There's only one person on the planet that knows why. You know what her name is, and she's a Vault, right? You know why? Because I wasn't seeking validation of any point. So it didn't matter why I canceled it. And the fact that I didn't tell anybody the reason why, I just said, listen, I'm not doing this. It's not going to work out. That has to be okay. And that was powerful for me because I didn't need to justify the reason why. The answer is no, it's just not going to happen. You get your money's back in your bank account. If we do another one, we do another one and we'll go forward with that. But the reason wasn't nearly as important as the actual event itself. So I completely 100% get where you're coming from.
Yeah. But it's hard to see it when it really is important and you've gotten so many people excited and they're on board and you made these, and I love the actual thing, but
I can't imagine what you're going through because yours is much bigger than an event that I was going to have. And I got so many messages of like, oh, I was so looking forward to this. I'm so bummed. I'm mad at you. I'm this at you. I'm like, you're having a whole hell of a lot of emotions about me. You know what I mean? Like about an event. So I can't imagine what you got with something that's, people kind of attach their value to as well.
Well, gratefully, I had a chance to create the new mission. So when I was asked, it was, well, because we're living small and the goal for 5-10 years is so much bigger. Yeah. And if we keep investing our energy in the small, we'll never get there.
No.
And so let's drop it all and build it back right so it can grow to what it's supposed to be.
100%. I love that. Marissa, we got any questions or anything on that little weird camera you got there beside your face? I tried to pull it up on mine, but it just it wouldn't go to your thing. Keep trying there and I'll give it a whirl. So yeah, back to the naming thing. I have no idea why my mother thought I needed 2 middle names. Like who we trying to impress with that? Like I would have been known as the girl with 2 middle names.
Carmen said she would have been Carlos.
Carmen would have been Carlos. Hold on, let me sit with that for a second. Carlos, I could kind of see it. I mean, Carmen's a crazy. In my phone, I'll tell you guys a quick story about Carmen. In my phone, it simply just says Crazy Carmen. That's if I want to call Carmen or text Carmen, I go to crazy. I just type in the word crazy. She's the only one that pops up under that. She's a nut. Nice. Carmen's been with me forever. Carmen was probably one of my, I wouldn't say first clients, but Carmen's been with me for a long time. I mean, probably, I don't even know how long I've been. I'm such a bad time person in this. Carmen's been with me for probably 7 years, if not more. Probably longer than anybody that of the original tribe that's known me. Mm-hmm. And she's a nut. So I can see her being Crazy Carlos. What else we got, Marissa?
Marty would have been Kathy.
I can't see it.
Marty. I mean, Marty and I would have got the screw job on that. Kathy and Jana. Jana, Elaine, and Kathy. Sorry, Marty. Thank God you weren't a girl, man. Thank God I wasn't a girl. What else we got, Marissa?
Yeah, this is Jana, Banana.
Yeah, could have been. I'd have went with that.
Bobby Jane says, I would have been named Bobby.
Bobby?
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of originality going on over in your place, Bobby Jane.
Yeah, but Bobby Jane has 14 names. What are the other ones that would have been boy?
Oh, I know. It's ridiculous. I look at her name sometimes and I'm like, I just forget about it.
No. Kirsten says, my law school roommate was from Orange County and was a size 00. She ate 15 pieces of spaghetti and 2 tablespoons of marinara for dinner. Dry popcorn was her only dessert. I was never as thin as when I lived with her.
Yeah, talk about the pressure.
Sounds like my roommates.
Yeah, 15 pieces of spaghetti, a couple tablespoons, and some dry popcorn. You put some butter on that. She's like, "Are you kidding me? Savage."
No questions though.
No questions. You put some more. I'm curious, guys. Anybody who's watching, let us know what your other gender name would have been if you would have been like, if you were a boy, what would your girl name been? If your mom even told you.
So I had a question for you, Jay.
I love questions. What's up?
When you were former fat kid, what was your like go-to closet snack? Like, did you eat like a full thing of like Chips Ahoy? Did you
here was
you know, how did Jay get fat kid?
I wasn't even a closet eater. I'll be honest. And this is a great question because I think a lot of people wonder, I mean, when you said that, like I saw that sumbitch coming down the hall, going to the kitchen, and I'm like, you get out of there. No baby gate's going to stop this guy. I'll tell you that. So here, this was my jam. And so my brother's 6 years older than me. So I remember two things. I remember always wanting to be like older. Right. And so I remember like if he was, you know, and my brother was super skinny. Like he was the exact opposite of me. He could eat 4 pizzas and lose weight. Like his whole life, he could not put on a pound of weight if he wanted to. So sometimes he would get like 2 hamburgers. I'm 6 years younger than him. And I'd be like, well, then I'm going to get 2 hamburgers. Right. And my poor mother, she's probably just like, I'm going to shut this sumbitch up. He's getting 2 hamburgers. Right. I mean, what do I want to do? Do I want to listen to this? Or do I just want to like, just shove him in the pothole? So that was one thing. I ate beyond my normalcy of, you know, I was eating as if I was him and I didn't have the same metabolism. I was like, you know, shorter and chunkier and squattier. I was always like husky. And then I remember what I used to do is like, I would always like sneak to the kitchen. And this was back when we had like, I mean, I don't know if parents still do this, but like cookie jars. I mean, cookie jars used to be like a thing. And like when I was growing up, like all my friends, my grandparents, there was like in the kitchen, there was like a little section that always had like either cookie jars or where they kept like my grandmother kept like the cake on the kitchen table. You know, the old school things where you put the lid on it and you kind of screw it. And there was always a cake or a pie or something on my grandmother's kitchen table.
When it last at my house.
Yeah, with me around, it didn't either. So what I would always do is I remember like I would make sure nobody was in the kitchen and I would go to the kitchen and I would get, instead of like getting like 1 or 2 cookies, I would get like a couple cookies and I would shove them in my mouth, like, and then I would grab 2 cookies like, oh no, I'm just getting the 2 cookies. I'm just going to have these 2. But I just like inhaled like 4 more. It was like, I was almost like, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing. And then like, I just had it wasn't even an insatiable appetite. I think it was like me, if I look back, it was like me probably trying to control my feelings or something like that. Like, cause I felt so out of control with my emotions. It was like, well, maybe I could just eat like these 7 Little Debbie snack cakes. And I mean, that'll make you feel better, you know? So no, I didn't. But yeah, so it was a lot of stuff like that. It was just like, I don't remember. And I was never like it was never like, you know, go hide food or anything like that. I never hid food. It was just like, I would always over consume. So if instead of eating 2 cookies, I'd eat 6. Instead of eating 1 thing where I would have been full, I would eat 4. You know what I mean? It was like a really weird, almost like insatiable control mechanism.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
I was the like 5th grade, 6th grade, real super chunky kid. My parents got divorced and we moved 5th grade, but elementary went to 6th. So I had to start a new school as the chunky new kid in 6th grade. Not good for a girl.
When did you realize that you were the chunk? Cause I'm going to back this up with a story after you tell me. When did you realize that you were not just chunky, but that you didn't want to be?
So I have 4 brothers and I am the second oldest, but was massively like thicker than all of them. And they were like these spaghetti arm kids. They were just these scrawny kids, my biological brothers. My stepbrothers were as well. But they used to call me Hulk Hogan because I was so much bigger than them. So, you know, that they maybe helped that along just a little. Totally. Yeah.
My brother called me fat boy, fat boy or chubby or like some derogatory comment like my entire life.
Yeah. And I was always taller and like matured quicker than my peers through elementary school. And so I was always just kind of felt like the big kid in the group. And I used to smuggle nutty bars. You remember those nutty bars?
You son of a bitch. You don't, you know, I
So
do.
good.
You know, I do.
I remember getting in trouble because I think I had like 6 of them in my backpack. My mom's like, those are for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're good.
They're for 2 hours, lady. We're about to go.
Yeah.
I'm about
They're
to
for
go,
the bus ride to school.
I'm about to go to work.
Yeah. But I think the biggest time when I went to the new school in 6th grade and I just kind of didn't feel like I fit in. My parents had just gotten divorced. Parents didn't get divorced back then. So it was kind of also, I had to explain that a little bit. And I would go, I really liked, one of my teachers was also the special education teacher. And so I would eat lunch in her class and help with all the special education kids because it was like, I just don't want to kind of get to know anybody, and realized I felt better helping. Yeah. And so, and eating nutty bars. So they didn't judge me.
For me, I think it was something around like the 5th, 6th grade. Like in the 6th grade, I remember that I wore a maroon, I think I've told some of you guys this story before. I wore this maroon, like pullover hoodie year round. And like right now, I mean, so you'd still be in school in like April and May, whatever. And in West Texas, I mean, it's almost like it is kind of in the desert. It's hot. I'm talking like it could be 100 and whatever. And even when it's in the 90s in Texas, like the humidity is so much different than here. It's like you're just wet. It's like sweaty all the time. I wore a maroon hoodie year round because I felt like if I couldn't see it, then I didn't have to like I don't know. I just didn't like the way I felt about it. And that's kind of when I started lifting weights like in the 6th grade, and it was just like downhill for me. But that maroon hoodie was like my whoopee, I think, or whatever your blankie is or whatever.
Yeah. No, you're lucky. I was chubby right when they decided to let like junior high kids wear bodysuits. It's like, come on, that's just rude. Wow. Like, we're not all in gymnastics going to school. Like, that's rude.
And then I got into junior high, and that's when Z Cavaricci's hit. So I would have been able to pull it off because they had the big legs and whatever. I could have still bulked up then. Nobody would have even known, but nah, I was already out of my bulk phase. So interesting. See if we got any questions, Marissa. Chubby, man. Those are the days.
Yeah. Wait, what are you thinking about? Nutty bars?
No, I'm just thinking about like unless you like you don't really think about that a lot. Like if I look at myself now, it's hard for me to, like, if I see those, like that picture I posted a couple of weeks ago, it's like, how do you go from that like to somebody who's like super into their health? And I mean you're a kid, obviously you don't know any better, but it's like, it's just hard to imagine that transition, right? Because I mean, I look at kids now and I'm like, God, I just want to save you, right? So my hope is that, like, just because the kid's chubby, that doesn't mean they're going to be chubby their whole life. Did we get anything, Marissa?
Yeah.
Oh, good. What do we got?
How did Alissa end up in the desert?
Who asked the question? Crystal, how'd you end up in the desert?
I was supposed to go to Portland, but I fell in love and met my husband and wound up in India. Yeah.
Was he in India at the time, or was he in Orange County?
He was in Orange County. So we met online, and we lived 3/4 of a mile from each other. I actually used to go running past his house and not realize we probably knew each other. He probably thought I was some crazy lady all the time. But we met, and he was commuting to Ontario. On the 91 freeway, for anyone that's familiar with the Orange County commute. And so we really didn't see each other during the week because he'd leave at 6 a.m., wasn't back till like 9 o'clock at night. And then we started looking for a house together, really weren't sure what we were going to do. Both of us had the leases up, kind of a thing. And it was like the shoebox about yay big in Corona Del Mar, Newport Beach, or what do you think about checking out the desert? Because he grew up out here.
Okay.
And I said, oh yeah, I used to vacation there when I was a kid. They have the baby airplanes, you know, when you go over the hill. Super cool. Windmills.
Right. Yeah.
So we came out, and we moved in May, and I didn't really realize that come like we moved, I think it was May 1st. So come like May 2nd, it turns into 100 billion degrees. What happened? But that was over 10 years ago.
10 years ago. So you guys met online dating. Okay.
Match.
Do you remember like the day? Do you remember the process? Do you remember like, I'm fascinated with this only because I've never done it. Like I like stories about like, listen, I watched The Bachelor. I watched The Bachelor, the new thing where they're singing, and I'm like, I don't know what I love love. I love love.
So I've got a handful of funny ones. I dated a guy for 4 years. My mom did not like him. So she kept trying to push me starting an online profile. And I'm like, but I'm still like dating someone, Mom, like not appropriate. Well, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but I think she ended up setting me up a profile. And 2 weeks later, my brother came as one of my top 5 matches on my email. So it kind of made me think like, I don't know how these algorithms work, but I don't think that online dating is probably a thing for me, Mom. And that was maybe 05, 06. So, you know, it's new. Yeah. My brother had met his now wife on an old dating service called hotornot.com. And you literally clicked if someone was hot or not.
Oh, wow. And can you have that now? No. That seems
hot or not. No.
That seems very un-PC. Yeah.
So my brother clicked, she was hot, and she waited 2 weeks because every one of my brother's photos, his hand was holding something and missing this digit. And so she kept telling herself, God, he seems really cool and super cute, but I don't know if I could date a guy with 9 fingers. But he has 10. It was just in every picture, it was shaded. I'm like, that's how bad online dating was back then, right? You just looked at a picture and you went for it. So my profile on Match, when I met my husband, my girlfriends and I were like, let's just go shopping. I'll set one of these things up. Let's see who's really out there. Drinking some wine, and it's blonde, athletic build, Newport Beach. So wake up the next morning, it's like, I think it was a wink. And so it's like a like on Facebook. So I wake up to like 400 winks because you search blonde Newport Beach athletic. I mean, wink, wink, wink. So I changed my status or subject line to a wink is a cop out. And I ended up going on like 2 dates. Not good at all. Yeah. And then
hold on, stop. Did you complete both dates, or did at any point you bail in the middle of the date?
So both of them were cut very short. It was like cocktails, and I got dinner later. Okay. And I used to go the Cannery in Newport Beach, and the bars like this, and my friend Art was the bartender, and Art and I would always kind of judge whoever was about to come. And I did a lot of dating. It was fun. And so I would always sit on this side and make the date sit there. So Art and I could like
communicate, right?
Talk about this guy without the other guy knowing. It's like my really good friend. So wink is a cop out. And about 4 days later, I get this wink from Jeff. He is feeding an ostrich in his profile picture. Okay. And there's a really heavy set Hispanic guy. My husband's not a heavy set Hispanic guy, with a big red fanny pack and an ostrich, and this guy.
So you don't know if it's the ostrich, Jeff, or the Hispanic guy who has winked at you.
Yeah. And so
you don't know what people are into. So I mean,
no clue what's going on. So my friend and I are looking at this like, what the hell? Not knowing that Jeff's cousin had actually winked at me because they're roommates, and Jeff gets pissed, like, wait, this girl's cute, and she said this is a cop out. I'm gonna have no chance with her. So we say that his cousin actually was.
Oh, his cousin was on his profile and did the wink. Okay.
They were both sitting there. They were
Gotcha.
shopping, you know? And so we ended up meeting, going, he originally said, let's meet at the cannery. I'm like, no. Let's just, no more dates at the cannery. That's just not a good idea. And we went to this sushi restaurant that I recommended. Jeff hates sushi. He hates anything fish. He ended up eating sushi that night.
He didn't tell
No.
you. Okay.
He even ate the sushi.
What will you do for
lunch? I know. He also didn't know, but he had, this is fun thinking about this. Thank you. But he had valeted his car and I was too damn cheap. And so he actually walked me in my car 4 stories up in the parking structure after the date and opened my door, closed it, no kiss, no anything, and walked away. And I ended up canceling my profile the next day and he did as well. And I was his first date. Yeah. So broke up with him in New York City about 6 months later. A month later, got out.
It's New York.
It's New York. Too much going on.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. And then about a month later, we're back together and we're married and 3 kids. And
nice.
That was 2008. Yeah.
Online dating. That's a good one.
So fun. And actually, Anissa, if she's on, my younger brother was one of her matches on one of the sites a couple years ago. And she had sent me like a screenshot. She's like, is that your brother? I'm like, I'm in one of his pictures on his profile. What an idiot. And I'm pregnant. I'm like, why would you have a pregnant blonde chick in your dating profile, you idiot?
Wow.
Yeah. So he's still single, but he doesn't live with mom anymore. So, I mean, he's got that going for him.
Progress. Marissa, do we have any questions before we have any wrap-up questions? Anybody want to know anything?
Okay. Rebecca asked, favorite vacation spot?
Hands down, Costa Rica.
Anywhere in Costa Rica? Is there a specific like place or?
The first part of our honeymoon we spent 12 days there and went from the eastern side on the Pequari River, went up to Arenal volcano, and then over to Manuel Antonio. And the first part was at an eco lodge where the only way you could get in or out was by river rafting, stage 4 river raft. There was no electricity and there were 12 bungalows, and it's now on Condé Nast, like really famous place now.
Yeah.
But you had to order your food in the morning because they had to raft it in because there was no refrigeration. And each place was 1,000 square feet bungalow that was open with its own private like pool in each one. And it was incredible. It was the coolest place ever. Horseback riding, zip lining. Yeah. I thought I would hate it.
Yeah. Because I'm hating it right now.
So I was like, wait, how do we plug things in? Like, I'm showering outdoors, but it was nuts. By the time we got to Manuel Antonio, and we're kind of like in an LA standard type hotel by the time we got across.
I'd want to whip Manuel Antonio's ass is what I'm thinking of right now. Whoever this guy is, like he's getting an ass whipping.
Google it. They're like one of the 7th wonders with white sand beaches. It's beautiful in Costa Rica. If this part that you described,
I'm not even sure you know what the word vacation means. That sounds it sounds dangerous. It sounds reckless. It sounds what? Did you know what you were getting into when you booked this?
No, the rule was I planned the wedding, Jeff planned the honeymoon. And so we just kind of split, divide and conquer. Oh, and he did music and alcohol for the wedding. Everything else was for me. And so when he first told me about this, I was like, wait, what? And like, we're going to do what? And so we rafted in. It took a good day and a half. There was one so you have this, I'm going to send you a link to this. I'm going to put it on this Zoom thing because it's incredible and so much cooler than what it sounds right now. It sounds like I'm living out in the jungle, but there was this beautiful clubhouse, let's call it, in the middle. And that's where your meals would be served every day. And there was a bar up top. They did dinners down on the river by candlelight. I mean, it was just so cool in how, as an eco lodge, everything was so efficient. So the food that was left over was fed to the pigs, which was then those pigs, after they got to maturity, were given to the indigenous people that came and worked at this resort. And then the people that did work there, because the American culture and tourism really helps boost the economy there.
Yeah.
One of the requirements for your job is you have to learn one English word every day. And so they would kind of chat with you about that. And their favorite thing was always, can you teach me a joke? It's like, don't teach me one word, like teach me a knock knock joke. But they'd always mess them up. They were always vulgar. They were always like, the punchline was awful. It's kind of like a poop joke with my 5-year-old. It's like, not funny, but I guess you said poop, so let's all laugh.
Why not? I mean, the simple things, right?
Yeah.
Wowzer. No, I mean, it sounds like an amazing, it sounds like an adventure for sure. I mean, to say the least.
So cool.
Where's
your favorite place?
My favorite place, I mean, I'm such a creature of habit. Like I mean, there's so many places we probably could go and should go, but I just go back to the same places all the time. And we go to Maui pretty much every year. And I think it's just probably my favorite place because I just, like I said, I'm such a creature that I know what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, and how I'm going to do it. I'm not big on like itinerary type stuff where I have to be like at a certain place at a certain time, or like I'm horrible on those kind of vacations. So probably Maui for me.
Okay.
Marissa, where's your favorite place to vacation?
Hands down, Japan.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. I mean, can we get away from that? Okay. All right.
But where would Melissa go?
Yeah, what is Melissa? Where does she want to go? I mean,
where's bucket list?
Oh, bucket list? Oh, are we talking
like number one bucket list? No, I'm changing the question, but number one bucket list, like vacation spot.
Oh, goodness. I actually want to travel everywhere, but I would say, yeah, I don't know right now, actually. I want to say Greece is definitely up there because I would love to see the white, like just that, that typical like crystal blue water over like with the white buildings and like I would want to see that in real life. Like that's just something I would just want to just stare at and just sit and drink wine and enjoy like a sunset over that. And then I guess all over Asia too. It's just something that been on my list forever. I want to go everywhere over there. Just all the stories I've heard from my brother and my dad just sounds incredible. So but yeah, and my roots, they're all over there. So figured I might go see them.
Good stuff. Anything else on the question bar? I don't want everybody hanging. Nope, we're all good. Alissa, thanks for joining us that went by super quick.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for Awesomeness Hour. I hope you had fun.
Thank you. I did. I'm actually shocked by the minimal interruptions. So
I think they did awesome.
Yeah, they did. I left snacks and the remote out there. So
that's all you need. That's all you need. What's on the agenda for this afternoon?
We have PE outside.
Okay.
So we're going to do some of that and then nothing. I got to get a little bit more work done and get just standard. It's Wednesday. So standard Wednesday stuff.
Cool. Well, guys, those of you that are listening that can hear me, thanks for working through our technical stuff. I mean, I think eventually Facebook's going to get their stuff figured out, or Zoom, or whoever we're holding responsible for this. But we'll post this link up and we'll actually put it in the page for people to watch, so it's a little more convenient than trying to fly through it on the Facebook Live conjunction. So thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow with another guest. See ya.